Hello again. Before we get started, again, I just wanted to thank you so much for listening. Void Signal is nothing without the hearts and minds to hear it, and it means a lot to me. So thank you very much. Lastly, Void Signal is ad-free, and you can support the creation of more Void Signal and its creator, me, Brian Prime, by signing up for the Void Signal Patreon. On the Patreon, you'll get all the tiers are the same, and they all get you access to the Void Signal Strangers series, the Void Signal Strangers trivia. There's a bunch of other stuff up there. And starting up this coming week, every Monday, there's going to be the Void Signal Moment series. And a lot more content is coming. Void Signal is going to grow a lot very soon. So thank you so much for your consideration, and you can visit voidsignal.net to find a link to the Void Signal Patreon, along with links to Void Signal merch and other, things associated with my little radio show thing. All right, I'll quit wasting your time, but thank you again for your consideration and for listening. I hope you are well, and we will talk again soon. Bye.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Great.
Terrific. Thank you so much for making this work. I really appreciate your time and setting this all up and everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So Void Signal just kind of starts. I don't really do intros or anything. We just kind of start talking at each other. But so allow me to gush for a moment, if you if you will. I discovered Public Memory probably about 2 years ago, something like that, and just have been really hooked on it as somebody who had who really loved industrial music is my main sort of genre I've listened to, but big appreciation of things like Uncle and Massive Attack and Tricky and all those kinds of things. So finding Public Memory was really refreshing to me. And I've just been such a huge fan ever since I stumbled over your stuff. So thank you so much for coming on the show and, taking the time out to be on and answer some questions about who you are and where you came from, kind of a thing.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words. Put me amongst some nice luminaries there and the other bands that you referenced. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess the first thing I'll ask is just sort of, so I've read your bio, and I actually went and checked out your previous band, Apsy. Am I saying that right?
Well, there was one called Apps, APSE. It was,
Okay.
it was. Let me just say this about it though.
Sure.
This was before smartphones and before we had apps on our phones, and it was I think I was 17 or 18 when we started the band. It was not my first band, but and it was I went to art school, and it is an architectural term for it's part of basically a church or cathedral, the area where the altar goes. So it's a very art schooly kind of band name, and we were instrumental. We were in our late teens, and so it was Apps. That was the name of the band, and it did change quite a bit over the years in terms of style and approach, and also members. I was in the band the entire time, but yeah, it's there's some stuff we did that I'm happy with still, but of course, when you look back, sometimes it's cringe.
Yeah.
So
sure. I feel that way even just about my own podcast. It's
sure.
Looking at when I started versus sure, I get that. And especially looking back at your younger self when you're sort of first trying to do a thing. But it was interesting to me to listen to it and visit with it as a Public Memory fan, and hearing it today for the first time, to sort of hear some of the overlap and sort of hear, I guess, what you brought to that versus what you're bringing to Public Memory, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there was actually one band in between called Eras, just like the word era, like ERAS, but it had two A's, ERAAS, and that band was around maybe 2011 to 2013. I don't actually remember, but we put out two records on the same label that Public Memory is on, and I would say it has more in common with public memory than apps does. But so if you were to know all three projects, you can kind of see the progression.
Okay.
But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I did not
Mm.
take the opportunity to check out the second project as of yet.
Oh, no problem.
Um, but so I did want to ask about. So I had, discovered Wuthering Drum was the first public memory record I'd heard. And then,
Mhm.
very quickly, Ripped Apparition was already out. But the new one, Elegiac Beat, is really wonderful. Like, what can you tell me a little bit about kind of what approach you took to this one versus, say, Ripped Apparition or Wuthering Drum?
Yeah. I mean, they all have different approaches, and I always
Sure.
make a record in a different space when
Mm,
I am working because I just need a different, not to be all woo woo about it, but different energy,
sure. No.
different atmosphere and environment. It kind of like new environment, new ideas.
Hmm.
I always say that, and new tools, new ideas, and so both of those things were happening. With each record, I kind of will maybe bring in some equipment I haven't used before, or eliminate things that I have. And so this record, I made a lot of it up in Maine, actually, in Mid Coast, Maine, and Camden, Maine, about 5 hours from where I live, and that space and the winter up there informed, I guess, quite a bit of the vibe, the atmosphere on the record.
Hmm.
But I also was kind of leaning more into trip hop, I guess, which I feel like is just an underexplored genre and also very broad because people will call a lot of things trip hop, which,
Yes.
that's fine with me,
Hmm.
but it's really hard to kind of pinpoint even just kind of like a few circles categorically of like what would be trip hop to people. I mean,
Hmm.
there are sort of the big few bands, I guess Massive Attack, Portishead, and a couple of others. But yeah, I don't know. I was trying to do it my way and just find a
Hmm.
new inroad into making a record that was informed by that a bit, but still
Hmm.
public memory. So.
Yeah. Definitely successful, I would say. And now that you mention it, I don't know, I do kind of feel the same way about trip hop. I mean, a lot of like when I am in a mood for trip hop, if I do not put public memory on, I'm probably going to put on something a little bit older.
Mhm.
For no particular reason other than just like I don't know. I would like this is a thing I'd like to explore more of and see sort of fresh takes on, I guess. Like, I mean, I feel
Yeah.
kind of the same way about the industrial music scene right now with like, I feel like Health is kind of a fresh, coat of paint on like this
Mhm.
idea.
Mhm.
I definitely am in the market for more fresh takes on trip hop. I think it's a great genre. And like you said, it is nebulous. Like a lot of things get lumped in, but I'm okay with it. It's a vibe more than it's an adjective to describe a thing, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose a lot of genres can be like that. I mean, some are
Mm,
a little bit more definitive, of course, but
sure.
it's and I like it being open. I guess um for me it's like certain bands really kind of do the trick,
Right.
and bring me to a place that maybe has some familiar elements but also is kind of opening new doors. It's nice when there's a kind of a pleasant balance between the two of those things. And I guess a lot of bands, when I see like lists of trip hop records and stuff, classic ones, and just more broadly, just through the years, it's like, I'll explore them. I'd say like maybe like 86% of them, just arbitrarily saying that, don't really, tick the box for me.
Yeah.
And maybe the other 14 do, which is still just a handful of bands. And I'm kind of always like, oh, how come just more people didn't kind of just go further down this road? There's so much to be had. So,
Yeah.
but I'm also, I don't know, I'm probably not gonna like that album is that album, and next I'm
Mm,
not gonna, I might not stay there, is what I mean. So,
sure. No, that's fair. I did want to ask. So, I've I've been a fan of like everything that you've put out, and I do greatly appreciate the writing to a vibe rather or a theme or an energy or a mood rather than you know um sort of it's refreshing, I guess. I like it. I'm a big fan of it. It's like captures that sort of feeling of this is a package. All of these things go together. So that
Mm.
it's like, the old school, maybe the old man in me, I guess is what it is, of like, oh, I like to listen to an album like start to finish and be like
Oh, me too. Yeah.
experience like a sound through different sort of filters and experiences. I'm a big fan of that. So that's why I've been really big on your work. For the what it is I kind of want to ask about like your sort of approach to writing lyrics, but I don't really, I'm unsure of how to phrase that, I guess.
Well,
But
you just did phrase it, didn't
okay.
you? So that's fine. Yeah, totally.
All right, close
I
enough, I
mean,
guess.
the question has gotten across to me.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is like I enjoy language and I
Mhm.
enjoy reading, but I don't really enjoy writing specifically lyrics. It's just never been a thing. I mean, I'm more like of a long form writer if I even do it. Of course, I mean I like poems and things like that as well. Not
Sure.
really in the habit of making poems these days, but I guess what I want to say is like I have so much more to say with music than I do with words. Um, if I'm putting it out as an art form, I mean, I've
Sure.
plenty to say with words in conversation with people, etc. But just if I'm putting out an art form, I don't really want to use words a lot. And so that's kind of the most difficult part of working on something. The lyrics come last. They don't come first. So what I generally do is I have a bit of music and
Mm.
I'll sort of react to it and with a form of glossolalia, if you're familiar with that term.
I'm not familiar with the term now.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know. I don't really know the etymology of this word, or where it
Sure.
came from, if it's or if it's some kind of colloquial term. But I mean, I don't think so. I think it is a word that's been around for a while. But for instance, Elizabeth Fraser from Cocteau Twins, like
Mm.
that form of singing when there aren't lyrics, is which isn't all the time with her, of course, but I know some of the time it is. It's glossolalia. You're sort of using the voice as an instrument. Lisa Gerrard from Dead Can Dance is another person that does that.
Okay. That is
Or
definitely a
I'm
name
sure.
I know. Dead Can Dance for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there are plenty of others, but it's like
Mm.
you're using your voice as an instrument. There aren't really lyrics to it, and this can be left in the music just as it is. For me, it's a tool to understand where I want to put lyrics and how. So, um, like I don't believe in first thought, best thought, that phrase. I don't think it always applies, but sometimes it does. And when I'm listening to something I'm working on, if I have enough elements, for instance, drums and percussion, bass,
Mhm.
maybe that is enough. Maybe there's something else. Then I'll just go in and do a vocal take that's, would be quite embarrassing if anyone else were present. But for me, it's a way of just kind of getting out an instinctive response to the music. And I almost feel like that instinctive response is going to end up making a better song in terms of like where the melody goes just from right out of the gates rather than something that I'm pouring over and really what's the best, the notes I should put here and how should this happen. It's more of a reaction. It's more of a yeah, it's instinctive. So once I have that, then I'll
Mm.
later on go and figure out words that will fit into that sort of thing and
Sure.
start the blacksmithing process of how do I how do I get, how am I going to kind of just square peg round hole, like the mood that I want to now go for in
Right.
this song into these lyrical passages and syllables. Like you're limited on syllables and anyway, so long answer, but I'm kind of a person who's full of long answers.
No,
So
totally fine. That was the answer I was looking for. Because, and I can completely relate to that in a lot of ways. I mean,
mm,
my own sort of writing background in academia and everything was a lot of like persuasive writing and like fiction and
mhm,
stuff like that. So, writing lyrics and stuff, the few attempts, I love those things. I love lyrics and poetry and so on. But I mean, it's not something I can do myself. For whatever reason, it just does not compute for
mhm.
for whatever reason. So because then it's that struggle of like, well, how do I get this thing to rhyme with this other fucking thing that I wanted to say? And like, but
Yeah,
so
the
given
rhyming is tedious.
remarkably. But so given that your process for like adding lyrics to public, would you say that like it makes your music maybe a little bit more emotional than the other approach?
than being instrumental, or what do you mean
Or
by
that,
the
the other approach of like, writing your lyrics first kind of a thing. Like, do you find
oh,
that like going in, doing the vocal take, and then just sort of, with the emotional raw response, do you think that it helps make your music more emotional, more real, more any of those?
I would say that in terms of the the melody, it does. In terms of
Sure.
lyrics, not so much, because later I'm fashioning the lyrics to kind of fit into the melody. But the
Mm,
melody being more emotional, or just, I guess, yeah, I think I said the word instinctive a few times, but I guess I just mean like um something that comes naturally, very humanistic, I guess. So other
sure.
people that are hearing it, they might respond more. This is very theoretical, but I guess it's just something that for me was more of a response and a reaction to something, rather than something that I kind of like scripted and really thought. And great things can come of the latter as well, of course. But for me,
Sure.
I guess in the process, it's like I end up liking the melodies that I come up with better when they're kind of like there's a saying in music production where it's like, oh yeah, the first vocal take is always the best. Of course, that's rubbish. I mean, a lot of my
Right.
first vocal takes, I would say probably all of them are not the best. But I think that kind of thinking comes from a similar place where it's like
Gotcha.
you're going to get something that's a little bit more real, a little bit more open emotionally. So yes, I would say in that sense it is. But then the lyrics that I apply can obviously change the overall effect of it, depending on their
Sure.
content. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
That makes sense. Um, so given your approach to writing music for this, is public memory likely to be just like your main kind of avenue for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the only thing I'm doing. I've had the other
Gotcha.
projects, and I had punk bands before those, and
Mm,
this is kind of, I'm not a spring chicken myself, so
right.
I don't really see myself starting up any other projects. But I'm talking to someone, maybe about doing some production work, which I do want to get more into because I do produce everything that I do. I mix everything myself,
Mm,
and record everything, unless I've sampled or something like that. But the majority of the music is, I've done everything myself, and
mm.
so I'm kind of looking into getting kind of like in the background, though. I don't want to be. It's not going to be like collaborations so much as like a producer, kind of behind the scenes. So
Gotcha. Okay. Is that something that you've done before, like in a producer role? Like,
not really.
okay. So it's
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of navigate that now. Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
No, that's exciting. I am hopeful for you. I mean, your own work has certainly benefited from your own touch. So, hopefully it will benefit somebody else's work.
I hope so. Yeah, working with the right person is obviously paramount. So
Mhm.
we'll. But sorry, that's making my cup of tea in the background here. It's clanking
Oh,
around.
it is
But
perfectly fine. Void Signal
okay,
is super casual. Like
cool.
it's all
I like
good.
that.
Um, that's cool. Okay. So aside from just trying to do some production work and stuff, I mean, it's too early to start asking you about like another record or anything. Um,
I
you
mean,
had,
not really, but I mean, I am working on it. But I'm sorry to interrupt you,
oh
though.
no, totally fine. But you do have a show coming up. I think my Spotify was telling me about that.
Mm, no, well, we do. It hasn't been announced yet, but we don't have anything for the rest of
Okay.
this year. Yeah.
Spotify says May 7th. You in next year, you are in Paris. Is that true?
Oh, that's already. Well, that is true.
Okay.
We haven't announced. I mean, there's a tour that's part of that as well,
Oh, I
and
see.
it hasn't been announced yet. And
Okay.
I guess that one
Uh,
is, in song kick or whatever system is, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
Spotify
well,
leaking shit.
I mean, yeah, that is coming up. I suppose, it's not.
Yeah.
I thought you
Gotcha.
meant something around the corner, but this is, yeah,
Yeah.
in the spring.
Gotcha.
Um, mhm.
Gotcha. And you have played, I'm remembering right that you have like toured with Public Memory a couple of times because yes, a friend of mine, Morgwitch, she opened for one of your
Oh, she's
on
your
your
friend.
tour.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed her set.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was in, where was that? Was that in Kansas City?
Yeah.
Where's
Kansas City sounds right. Yeah.
um, tour is a bit of a blur, and that's not because of some kind of
Mm.
you know, musician like uh I some kind of partying lifestyle. It's just because you're in most cities, of course, for less than 24 hours, and
Yeah.
then you on to the next one. And but I believe that's where it was. But
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So you mentioned plans for a tour next year. Sounds like overseas, maybe. Plans to play the U.S. Again? Was this most recent tour? And you don't have to answer this, but it's a thing I'm sort of curious about. Was this most recent tour? Would you define it as successful? Like whatever that might mean to you.
yeah, no, I would say so. I mean, we've done a
Okay.
handful of tours. I mean, there have been a number of different iterations of the live band, and
Mhm.
um, this one is the strongest one. I mean, this one I'm playing in the live band with a friend of mine that I've known for, I guess, over 20 years, and
Mhm.
we have good chemistry, and it's we have a language, and
Sure.
so yeah, but it's been growing. I mean, obviously, COVID stuff slowed things down for everyone, but um, kind of getting the momentum back now and stuff. And so this tour, we had some really, really successful nights, and you have your slower nights peppered in and stuff, but that's to be expected, and you kind of enjoy those anyway. And there's more intimacy and things like that in those shows. So
Sure.
I somehow mixed the word anyway and intimacy, and I said the word enemy, but it's
I
a
mean, I'm in.
strange sort of Freudian slip. I don't even know what that is, but
Uh,
anyway.
it's fine. We've all got our damage. It's okay. um,
Um, yeah, it was a good tour, though. Yes, to answer your question.
good. That's a good thing. I mean, like it's like you said. I mean, I try not to bring the pandemic up too much, just because we all want to be further from it as we can. But
Yeah.
I am always sort of curious to see how people feel about their tours after they get back from them. Just because I mean, like it can go either way. I mean, I've heard some people say that like it was a bust or it wasn't worth it, or maybe they don't want to do it as much. So it was, yeah, I just like getting a sampling of like, how did this go kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And so it's good that
Sure.
it went well for you. More cozy shows like that in the future is what I'm hoping. I would love to be able to get to see myself. I was hoping to like catch this most recent tour, but I had, life shit happening. So it was
I understand. Yeah. Where are you based?
I am in Reno currently, but moving to Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we
So,
played Reno once also. I forget
oh
the
really?
space. It was a nice space. That was like a kind of like a youth space. I don't remember the name.
The Holland Project?
I believe that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It is a cool space. I saw actors there
Hmm.
like years ago, and it was like it's a I'm grateful it exists as an all ages venue for like because I would have loved to have had something cool to go to like that when I was a kid, like go see a cool
Yeah.
show of like actors, public memory, something like that, where like,
Mm.
you pay like $12, like some pittance to like see some
Hmm.
like incredible band in like this tight space. Like it's cool. It's really cool.
It is
Um,
cool.
how long ago was that?
I guess that was it was maybe 2022 or something. I don't.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't remember exactly, but it
I
was a
don't
couple
know
years ago.
how I would have missed such a
Yeah.
thing. Maybe I just wasn't into public memory at the time, but
Yeah, maybe,
uh,
which is fine.
my
Maybe it was
loss.
2021, but either way,
My
we are,
loss.
uh, uh, we'll come through again.
Okay.
Sacramento, it's been a bit since we've been there. We are going to be on
Mm.
the West Coast in March, but that hasn't
Oh,
been announced yet. So,
okay.
um, but
Excellent.
I think that's going to be more like like Southern California and then the Pacific Northwest, just because it's a short
Yes.
little tour. So,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Lots of good dates on the West Coast. Lots of good like cities to catch though, like
Hmm.
for sure. That's the thing I'm kind of excited about for moving and being in Sacramento, honestly, is that it's much closer to San Francisco and like, it's like less than $100 to like fly to LA for a weekend. Like it's
Mm,
yeah, gonna be catching a lot more shows. So now that
excellent.
I won't be up in the desert, up in the mountains and shit. It'll be great. And you mentioned earlier that you were in Maine. Um, is that, and like you've kind of been up in the Northeast like most of your life, is that right? Or
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in New England and
uh
I lived all over New England, well into my 20s. Then I lived in New York for 6 years, moved to LA, moved back to New York, and
mhm,
now I live in the woods in New England. But I don't live in Maine, but that's just where I made the last record, most of
gotcha.
it. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
Uh,
like it here. I mean, where I live now, it's about 2 hours from New York City, so I can be out in the woods as I am, but still, it's not very either a train ride or a car ride can be in the city. So
okay. Uh,
yeah.
that sounds cool. You do living kind of away from the city is nice at times. I'm not a huge people person, but that's
Mm.
okay.
I
Um,
mean, I can relate, so
yeah. Um, all right. Well, let me give me a second here. Don't like think of another question for you.
no problem.
You're like knocking them out like super fast, just like bam. Here's a comprehensive answer.
Oh, do people usually like kind of well, of course you don't want to be disparaging to those who might like
Yeah.
ramble, but it's like, oh yeah, they always take way too long on my show, yeah,
No, I
my
mean,
podcast.
I like sometimes I'm like I appreciate like some rambling. And I just don't like the interviews that are frustrating for me. The only ones I don't like are the ones where that are like it starts to feel a little bit like an interrogation where I'm
Mm,
like you're giving me too little. Like, like one
mhm.
sentence answers are maybe not enough because this is like the goal is a conversation more than
Yeah, it's like,
a
what's the point if you're just going to be like, hey, like, how was your tour? It was like, good, you
Yeah,
know.
it was pretty good. You gotta give me like something to chew on, something to like work
Mhm.
with. So
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, much
Yeah.
appreciated. But yeah, I do. Uh, okay, so let me ask you this: like, what when you first sat down to start recording Wuthering Drum, um, what what was it that you decided Public Memory was going to be? Like, how did you arrive at like I want it to sound like this, just this, whatever it is?
Oh, well, a few aspects to it there. One was that I didn't want it to sound just like the last band I had, Eras, and so I was like, I
Mm,
could make another record that was similar to that. There was another person involved in that project.
mm,
I did have a lot of, influence on the project and the sound of it, but I wasn't completely working alone or anything like that. He had a role in it as well.
sure.
But still, I was like, I wanted to just make sure it was different from that. And I had also been to Italy several years prior, and they had an MS-20, Korg MS-20 synth. My friends there, they live in the Italian Alps in the north of Italy,
Hmm.
and I hooked it up to like a tape delay pedal or something, and it just made a really beautiful sound. And I had kind of had it in my mind that I wanted that to be part of whatever I was going to be doing next. And it is all over that record. And I think there's an MS-20 on like almost every Public Memory track,
Mm,
um, some point. And so that was part of it. I love field recordings and wind. I love chimes, and all those kind of things went
hmm.
into the palette as well. And I kind of just wanted to make like I don't know, like I never even was thinking of that album as being even like kind of trip hop adjacent, but some people talk about that now with that record, which I find interesting because I wasn't even going for that. It's just and I don't really think it is, but
Hmm.
it's just more of the repetition that you get in krautrock, kind of a dub application to music production where things can just turn on sounds, pianos, bells, rustling leaves, all those kinds of things. And yeah, I feel like it was I don't know. I would just want to make these kind of like weird electronic krautrock, darker, pretty much chorusless songs.
Hmm.
And I made it in like a little bedroom in Echo Park. And yeah, I don't know. Is there more I should add? Or...
No, 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 that's good. No, it's interesting. It's just fascinating to sort of hear how you arrived at a thing. Because I mean, like, uh, I'm one of those people who would probably be like, if I were trying to suggest Public Memory to somebody else, I would probably use the term trip hop. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I have. Because
Mhm.
I've shared the music out to a lot of people I know. Um, But yeah, I just because it feels a little bit hard to describe any other way, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and it's fine with me. I just when I was making that record. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was born in the early '80s. Let's put it that way. And
Yeah.
a friend of mine who was in the live band for a bit of time, my friend Frank. This was the previous iteration of the live band.
Mm.
I had never heard Mezzanine, for instance, Massive Attack, and this was after Ripped Apparition was already done, and
Oh wow.
so that was the album previous to the one I just made. And he was like, "Hey, you should probably check out this album because it seems like it reminds me a lot of stuff you're doing." And I had already made. I have a song called Afterlife, and on YouTube, all the comments are saying it sounds like Angel by Massive Attack because of the bass line. And
Right.
I nerdily went in and pointed out the not in a defensive way, but just like it's completely different. But I hadn't even heard that song at the time, which
Mm.
is true. And so anyway, I mean, I loved Portishead in high school though, so that was always there. But I get a
Mm.
lot of Massive Attack stuff, and I guess I just all this is to say I think my early stuff probably sounded more like trip hop because I was using some of the same ingredients that
Sure.
bands like Massive Attack were using.
Mm.
Therefore, I ended up somewhere not too dissimilar. Um, and I mean, definitely dub is a huge influence
Mm.
on trip hop, and
For sure.
that's one of my uh, I'm a huge dub fan, and so
It's interesting
yeah.
how much crossover there is with dub and like also in the industrial scene. Like I know a
Mhm.
lot of industrial musicians who are just like, oh, I like they live and breathe dub when they're not, making industrial music. Um, it's it's a thing that I can't. It's not for me in its pure form. I have to
Mhm.
have someone. I have to have artists who are really into it apply it to the thing they're doing, and then I
Mhm.
and then I can appreciate it.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
I just love it because it's the first remix, basically. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like taking all the elements in, for instance, a reggae song, and then breaking them down to
Mm-hmm.
individual tracks, keeping a drum and bass line in there, and then just kind of like illuminating these different little glimpses of parts of the full reggae track with
Mm-hmm.
effects on them and things to make them just otherworldly and kind of and psychedelic and maybe darker at times. And
Mm-hmm.
it just was such a creative art form to me, especially at the time. And
Yeah.
not that I was around, not that I was
Right.
around for the heyday of it, but I'm just saying when you think about the time, the context of that.
Sure.
So, but hey, it's cool if you don't like the sort of that form of it, but all the things that influence that's just as
Yes.
well. So
Yeah. It.
yeah.
That's common in like I feel like that's definitely common in like at least in the like the in most music scenes, but for industrial, absolutely. I mean, it's like I can appreciate the throbbing gristle and the Einsters and Den Neubautens and all of
Mhm.
these things. Like I can love and appreciate them, but they are, not a thing I'm gonna put in my ears. I'm glad they exist. But
Mhm.
dub is a thing that I've only really scratched the surface of, and the few times I tried to kind of get into it, it was maybe a little it seemed like too much not my thing. But I mean, I
Mhm.
was young and impatient then. I fucking, we're
I
almost the same
understand.
age. And I
Mm.
definitely was much more impatient with music when I was younger. Like I wouldn't wait
Oh,
for like a 6 or 7 minute song to like peak.
oh, me too. When I
Yeah.
mean, I've been there, and still at times can be, even though I can also listen to like a 20
Hmm.
minute Stars of the Lid ambient track or something and be
Yeah.
totally into it. But I empathize with that. So
Yeah. I've gotten a lot better about it. I'm much more I'm much more patient now. I can wait for a song to like get to the good parts and stuff, or not the good parts, but the complete
I know what you
itself,
mean.
I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I try and keep these kind of short and sweet. So the last question of the podcast that I'll put to you is what is something that you're enjoying right now? And your answer can be anything. A book, movie, a video game, whatever. Just
Oh,
what's something that you're jazzed about?
taking me by surprise here.
Yeah. While you
It
think
would
about it, I'm
probably
going to try and also think of an answer and we'll see what
okay.
we come up with, I guess.
Well, I kind of have to see what I've been listening to because that would probably be where it comes from.
Sure.
Um, I guess this is a place where you can cut out some of
Yeah,
the
I I
the
can.
room tone in the
Yeah,
background here. Yeah.
yeah. I'll condense down a lot of the like, the in betweens.
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. Something that I'm currently enjoying.
Yeah, and I've got an answer, so I will go ahead while you continue to
Yeah,
think.
please do.
But so the thing I'm really like jazzed about and I'm enjoying, I just got an updated logo for the podcast. I'm so pleased with how it turned out. The artist I hired
Great.
did such a great job. I've been so pleased with it. I've been listening to musically, I've been listening to Rat Wars a lot since it came out. And I'm working on scheduling health for the first week of January, something like that.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I'm excited about that. So that's like what, yeah, that's what I'm happy about right now. That's what I'm enjoying is like,
Those are good things. Yeah.
yeah. Those are good things. I'm pleased, but
I guess I could say yeah, mine's going to be kind of like a little reel of things as well.
yeah,
I'm happy that it's going to be January soon because I really enjoy the first few weeks of January. And if you haven't heard it, it's a very good time to listen to the very first Goldfrapp album
mm,
called Felt Mountain. And I would recommend that to anyone that likes Public Memory should at least check this out because it's sort of before they were doing pop and the black cherry style that I think kind of became most known for, I would argue.
sure,
And it's a very, very beautiful, um, very particular winter record for those that have winter. Because I'm very seasonal about music, and
mm,
early January is the time to listen to Felt Mountain by Goldfrapp. And it kind of got lost, that record. And there are bells and chimes and cuckoo clocks and
mm,
1960s sounding Technicolor string parts and moogs and theremin and yodeling and it, it's kind of just you're in the Swiss Alps in like
okay,
1968 for the whole record, and it's
sweet,
really intoxicating and beautiful. Yeah, that's one thing. I like the new Clark record a lot, and
okay.
um, the new Forest Swords record also.
Oh,
I
that is a name
listen.
I know, Forest Swords.
Yeah.
And I will admit, like this, I'm definitely going to check out this Goldfrapp record, but I do like Black Cherry. That is
Oh no,
I do
there's
think
no.
that's
Oh, I mean,
no,
yeah.
no, no. Yeah, I think that's a great record. And like, I encourage people like, industrial goth, whatever, just listen to music. And this is a good record to like listen to. So yeah,
Oh,
agreed.
absolutely. No, I mean, hey, I have nothing against Black Cherry. I
Yeah.
enjoy quite a few
I'm
tracks on there. I just wanted to make the
mm,
distinction that
for
it
sure.
is. This album is a very different type of record. Before they went into a more straightforward,
Yeah.
not even straightforward, but it's just a more approachable pop
Sure.
direction. So,
And I do
uh,
appreciate you adding that distinction because I'm excited to listen to Felt Mountain now because it's a record I skipped over. I was like I
oh,
started with
please
Black
do.
Cherry.
Please do and listen. I mean, you got to listen through at
Hmm.
least twice, and then if after the second full listen, you're
Hmm.
not you know how like albums grow that way.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in picking it back up, then of course don't. But
Mm.
um, it because it might take a bit to grow on anyone listening. So
Sure. Okay.
um,
All right. Fair enough. That sounds good. And yeah, Forest Swords was another name that you mentioned that I knew that I was like, okay, like I'm definitely into, and it's another
mm,
kind of obscure sort of an artist, like somebody just making like something cool that like um kind of bends a lot of genres and stuff. So yeah, for sure.
yeah, his stuff is so cool. I really
Hmm.
like it a lot, and I think maybe he was around a little bit before me, but
Hmm.
um, kind of know some of the same people and
Hmm.
just yeah, I'm excited about that project. It definitely has its own sound and
Hmm.
point of view. So
For sure.
yeah.
Anything else you got like kicking around that you're like jazzed about?
Oh, I'm working on the new record for Public Memory.
Mm,
And just I'm still in the discovery stage, so it's like
sure.
it's not the annoying, tedious, laborious part. It's like the fun part
Oh,
where you
okay.
get to do like, oh, am I going to make a techno album for the next record, or oh, am I going to make kind of like a trap record that's kind of spooky but like down tempo, but it's me singing, it's not rapping, really. Am
Yeah.
I going to make another trip hop, right? Which I'm probably not going to do, but it's that fun part. And then later comes all the, you know, the daily tedium of just, oh, I got to get this vocal take better. I was kind of flat on the second syllable and all that.
Right.
Fun stuff, but
following through on things and all that.
Yeah, that whole part of the creativity thing, just
where you have the discipline to do it. Gross.
Yeah, it's gonna hole up somewhere for a few months and try to get it done, but it always takes way longer than you expect. So.
Sure, fair enough.
But hey, I'm very I feel very privileged to be able to just make music and be working on computers and playing synthesizers and doing all that stuff too. So it's really fun to be able to. I mean, I have a day job, but I'm just saying to have a following and to be able to be in a position where I can make music. It's it's a joy. So
for sure. I'll put one last quick question to you before we wrap this up. What is something you do when you're not doing public memory? Like, what's your number one hobby?
Oh man, I don't know if I have one, but I do enjoy being outdoors. I enjoy having a fire in my yard,
Sure,
and hanging out with friends and things like that. I like nature. I like being outside. I like daydreaming and kind of getting lost in that way.
Gotcha. So. Being outdoors, pyromania. Okay, understand. Got it.
Not really. I mean, maybe low key pyromania. No, I mean that's. Gosh, I'm gonna curse myself here. Now I'll be checking the stove an extra 7 times before bed tonight instead of the normal 3 to 4. But
you're wait, am I into pyromania? Let me check.
Into denial about my pyromania. Okay, anyway, carry on. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on. It was a huge pleasure. Public Memory was I listened to your stuff a lot, and especially over the past year was tumultuous for me, and it ended up soundtracking a lot of those things. So thank you so much for making it, and I'm glad it was there for me when I needed it. So thank you very much.
I'm glad too. That's always the best thing that I can hear from people is that it was, it had some kind of a meaningful role during a particular time, for instance. So
for sure,
that's it's very gratifying. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I will let you go. That is it. Thank you so much again for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. I will bombard you right before this goes up. Void Signal intro and outro music courtesy of Processor. Visit processor2.bandcamp.com for more Processor, and visit voidsignal.net to help support the creation of more Void Signal. Thank you.